and welcome to the Stonery. We are here to smoke weed and talk about weed. Grab your cannabis and let's get into it. So today we're talking about another weird one. This one is not about cannabis itself, but about tolerance breaks and CHS and different, health reasons for doing these things and for doing tolerance breaks and taking breaks from anything because too much of one thing is just... This one is mostly motivated because I had some health issues that I was trying to work through, and I feel like I have mostly worked through them. Either way, I wanted to do a little podcast episode on what's going on in my life, but related to the stonery, and that would be tolerance breaks. When you should take a tolerance break, whether you decide this or your doctor decides this or someone requests this of you, don't judge yourself for using cannabis as a medicine. It is that for a lot of people, and sometimes it is the most functional thing that people can use for whatever ails them. I know I find it's a lot easier on my system than ibuprofen is. Obviously, I enjoy smoking weed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd probably be taking edibles instead. But I say all this because if you feel like this is a problem in your life, you should take a break from it. You should see how you feel without it. You should see if you want to continue doing it. And some people do, some people don't. It's all a matter of what's best for you and your body. And tolerance breaks regularly, I think, are really healthy and good for you. I personally probably won't partake in them more than once every 6 months or a year, or emergency scenarios. Why might you want to take a tolerance break? Well, you might want to take a tolerance break if you notice you have excessive use. Or you might want to take a tolerance break if you notice that you have a really high tolerance and you want less of a tolerance. That's why they're called tolerance breaks. If you smoke weed and it takes a lot of weed for you to get high, and you want it to take less weed, some people will take a break from weed and come back to it, and their tolerances are much smaller. It's similar to alcohol. And mention that some people actually don't do tolerance breaks and will actually just smoke less weed. There's a whole thing about it. And I've done this in the past too, where if you smoke less weed, you might have less of a high to begin with, but your body will get accustomed to smoking that amount of weed, and eventually you'll feel the highs again. I don't know how to explain it. You can almost trick your body into feeling high after smoking a little bit of weed, because you're probably over smoking anyways. Most of the time, I know I am when I'm with friends, but when I'm at home, I tend to undersmoke, I'm really only smoking for the symptoms most of the time. So my tolerance break was 14 days long. I did it over my Christmas break. I ended up getting 2 weeks off. Some of the days I took PTO, some of the days my boss gave me off. But I ended up needing it because my symptoms were so intense without smoking cannabis. I was not functional. I did a lot of relaxing and a lot of nothing and a lot of sleeping. One of the things that I knew I was going to miss was the oral fixation of just vaping. I'm not a nicotine vapor, that is something, my friends had them when I was 16 and I would hit their vapes every once in a while, but it was not like I never had one of my own. And to this day, I never had one of my own and I didn't really want one, you know? Or if I did have one, I got rid of it like really quickly. I don't even remember at this point. I know I tried the essential oil vaporizers. I wish I could find the ones that I tried back in the day, but they probably went out of business. I feel like it's not a huge industry, and I feel like it's more of a now thing than a then thing. I have a lot of anxiety, and sometimes that like habitual motion is what keeps me from getting anxious. It's almost like a stress ball. I do love a good stress ball, but I also love a good vape. I also am a habitual nail biter, so I sometimes will go for the vape instead of biting my nails. A lot of what I smoke weed for is my anxiety. I get panic attacks. I get nausea from my anxiety. I get upset stomach from my anxiety. I get a few different symptoms from my anxiety, and I have since started to take medication for my anxiety, which has helped a lot. I think I just need to narrow down the right one. Um, Sometimes I'll smoke weed for my gut health issues. Those have been bothering me a lot. I've recently learned that I might be gluten intolerant and I might be dairy intolerant, and I was also drinking water that had bacteria in it. We didn't know our well had bacteria in it, so that's fun. Sometimes I'll medicate for my migraines. I get really bad headaches and migraines. This I think is POTS, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm talking to doctors. I have issues eating. My brain sometimes doesn't let me eat. It like if there's too much effort involving getting the food, if there's too much ick behind the food. Like I had to convince myself that I wanted to eat lunch today, which was fun. Usually that happens with weed. This time I needed a lot of mental fortitude to get myself to eat lunch. But I ate lunch and I ate a whole serving of lunch and I ate everything that I put in my bowl. So I'm very proud of myself. And that sounds silly, but I don't know. I've never needed to eat consistently. So I've never had an issue just listening to my body and my brain as to when it wanted to eat and what it wanted to eat. Now that I have restrictions and stuff, it's getting a little harder and I need to find more of my safer foods. I also enjoy a good smoke sesh with my friends. I have a couple of friends in Massachusetts I like to smoke with. I would like more friends down here that I can smoke with, but I haven't had a lot of luck. One of the things that I ended up buying to help me through my tolerance break was the Vitabar. It was the little essential oil vaporizer. This one was caffeine and some terpenes, but not like weed terpenes, just like normal plant terpenes. So it had caffeine and vitamins and terpenes, and it had a very light flavor, but it was a decent flavor. I don't have a lot of taste buds, so I tend to just like not get a lot, but my friend really enjoyed it. And now I've spent a lot of my time talking about tolerance breaks, but I also wanted to mention CHS, which is cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which is very similar to cyclical vomiting syndrome, I think. but it's triggered by cannabis. It like heavy use, like think Snoop Dogg type heavy use of weed. At least that's how it's been explained to me. Regular use, every day, that kind of shit, including CBD. Sometimes CBD will trigger it. CHS is really intense if you look it up and look into it, but I would recommend not. It's actually, this is still not tested enough, but someone recently mentioned to me that CHS is possibly genetic, and I thought that was really cool because I thought I had it for a while. I don't think I have it? Question mark. I don't know. But it was really interesting to learn that I think they found the person I was talking to mentioned they found this information a couple of years ago, and they haven't done a ton of more studies on it, but they need to. Just like everything else cannabis, right? But let's get into like my day to day on the tolerance break, and that will be it for today. Day 1, I felt okay. I was kind of sore, like all over, which is pretty common for me. I think that's partially the gluten intolerance and the dairy intolerance and all that, eating foods that don't agree with my body. I went the whole day without smoking. I did great. I didn't really need to. I wanted to, but I didn't. It's always worse in the beginning than it is after a few days. Like, I was excited to get back to smoking, but it was definitely got easier over time to not smoke. Day 2, I didn't feel great. I had some nausea. I had a lot of usual symptoms. Day 3, I had a lot of symptoms. I was not feeling good. I was able to eat 2 meals, and I'm saying that as if it was accomplishment, a question. I think day number 4, I had a lot of pain. I ate some snacks and 2 meals that day, though, without weed, which I think is a good accomplishment. I tend to need weed a lot to eat. Day 5, I was really not having a good day. I put awful in there. I said I felt awful. Day 6, I only ate 1 meal and a few snacks. Day 7, I said I was feeling better, but I had some pain, and I think that was probably from not eating on day 6. That's what a lot of my pain comes from, is when I don't eat. And some of my symptoms that I'm not mentioning because they're kind of gross. Day 8, I felt not great. I was definitely brain foggy and weird and in pain and nauseous. Day 9, felt okay. I haven't been able to eat a lot. Had a lot of abdominal pain and nausea. Day number 10, I felt okay until I got out of bed that day. Day 11, I woke up with a lot of symptoms before I got out of bed, which is not great. Day 12, I had more symptoms. Day 13, I had still some more symptoms. Things were starting to get a little better, but I had a lot of pain and nausea on day 13. Day 14, I think things started to pick up on normalizing again. But since this 2 weeks, I've been going back and forth, and I haven't been really okay until we cleaned out the water, and then I took a vacation, and I really got some relaxing hours in. I let go. I'm starting to overthink things a little less. I'm still an overthinker, but I think a lot of my issues come from anxiety as well. I think it's intolerances, anxiety, possible POTS. We'll see. But I really enjoy smoking weed. I personally don't feel like it's a problem for me. I smoke pretty regularly, but it helps with my day-to-day life. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody for that. And you shouldn't either. So, grab your cannabis and go get buzzed. And maybe tomorrow take a break. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. The best way to support the podcast is to tell your friends about me. Tell your friends to listen to the podcast. Share me with your online friends, your in-person friends, random people you don't know at the dispensary. Share me with everybody, please. That is the best way to get the podcast out. But also follow me on Instagram. I'm at the _stonery_pod. You can email me, thestonerypod@gmail.com. You can join the Discord, which should be in my Linktree link, which all of my other stuff should be there too. I will also answer Instagram DMs or emails, or please leave a review on your favorite podcast player, whatever you use. It's always helpful to have a review. I know it's nicer to look at a podcast that has a review than doesn't, you know. I tend to actually get my podcasts word of mouth. That's how I find more podcasts, either from my friends, my coworkers, or my podcasts. Honestly, some of them are because my podcast had somebody on and I fell in love with them and I wanted to listen to their podcast. But that is all, folks. Have a wonderful day and stay medicated.